Okay, so if you spend hours at a computer, you've probably thought about your chair, your monitor height, maybe even your mouse. But what about the one tool your fingers are touching all day long? Yeah, I'm talking about your keyboard. That standard flat keyboard could be the real hidden source of that nagging chronic pain you've been ignoring.
I mean, really think about it. That dull ache, maybe some tingling, that stiffness in your hands, your wrists, or even up your forearms. It's so common that most of us just, brush it off and keep working. But what if you didn't have to?
All the evidence points right back to that flat, rectangular slab sitting on your desk. For something we use so constantly, its design is, kind of surprisingly, totally at odds with how our bodies are actually built to move.
But here's the good news. We don't have to just put up with it. Once you understand the science, the biomechanics of typing, you can completely rethink your relationship with your keyboard. And seriously, find a way to work pain-free.
So first up, let's actually put a name to this problem and get a handle on just how big it is. Because this isn't just about some minor aches and pains. It's a massive issue with a really significant cost.
The official term for this kind of thing is a musculoskeletal disorder, or MSD for short. Now, unlike a sudden injury, these things creep up on you. They develop slowly, over time, from the thousands upon thousands of tiny repetitive movements and awkward positions we force our hands into every single day when we type. And the cost? It's absolutely staggering. We're talking about more than $20 billion. That's the direct cost every single year just in the US from these kinds of injuries. It's a huge economic hit, and it all starts right there at our fingertips.
Okay, so why? Why is the standard keyboard so bad for us? Well, it all comes down to two specific, really unnatural positions that it forces our hands into day in and day out. So let's break it down. The first big problem is something called ulnar deviation. See how the wrists have to bend outward, away from the body just to line up with the keys? That's not good. The second one is forearm pronation. That's the constant twist in your forearm that you need to keep your palms flat on the keyboard. Neither of these positions is natural, and holding them for hours is just not sustainable.
So what's the fix? Well, the first and most obvious step is to literally split the keyboard in half. This simple change allows your hands to sit naturally at shoulder width. And just like that, you've eliminated that stressful outward bend, correcting the ulnar deviation and putting your wrists back into a straight, comfortable line.
And what about that twisted forearm problem? The solution there is just as clever. By tenting the keyboard, that means tilting it up in the middle, your hands can rest in a much more natural handshake position. And then, by adding a negative slope, angling it down and away from you, you stop your wrist from bending upwards, which is another huge source of strain.
All right, let's bring it all together. These solutions can basically be boiled down to 4 key design features that any truly ergonomic keyboard has to address.
This pretty much lays it all out. You've got the split, which, as we saw, gets rid of ulnar deviation. Then there's the slant, which puts your wrists in a neutral position. And some research suggests about 12.5 degrees is the sweet spot. The slope should ideally be negative, around 7.5 degrees, to keep your wrists from bending up. And finally, the tilt, or tenting, that fixes the forearm pronation. Get all 4 of these right, and you've created a genuinely comfortable way to type.
But look, real ergonomics isn't just about avoiding pain. It's also about finding a tool that just feels right for you, something that actually makes you better and more comfortable at your job. And that means we have to go way beyond just the shape and get into a much deeper level of personalization. And that personalization can start at the software level with the key layout itself. We all know and use QWERTY, but it's actually not the only game in town. There are alternatives like Dvorak, which was designed from the ground up for pure efficiency, to minimize how much your fingers have to move. The only catch? Yeah, you basically have to completely relearn how to type.
Now, when it comes to the physical keyboard, personal preference is huge. In one poll, a solid 62% of people said they still prefer the feel of a traditional, full-height mechanical keyboard over those slimmer, low-profile ones.
But here's the twist. Even though more people prefer the traditional feel, studies have actually shown that users can type somewhere between 8 and 12% faster on low-profile keyboards. The keys don't have to travel as far, which means you can type quicker, but it can take a little bit of getting used to before your accuracy catches up.
Okay, but the real soul of keyboard personalization comes down to the switch. This is what's under the keycap. Do you want a super smooth, quiet linear switch? Or maybe a tactile switch that gives you a little bump of feedback? Or maybe you love the loud, satisfying sound of a clicky switch. Each one provides a completely different feel and sound.
And just a quick, friendly word of advice from the keyboard community, your personal preference has to live in the real world. As one Reddit user puts it so perfectly, that incredibly satisfying click you love might not be so satisfying to the person trying to work next to you.
So what happens when you take all of these ideas, the perfect ergonomic shape, and your personal feel, and roll them all into one single device? Let's take a look at a design concept that really tries to do it all.
So this is the Trinity keyboard concept. When it's all closed up, it looks pretty conventional, for an ergonomic keyboard. It's approachable, not too intimidating for someone who's never used one before.
But its real magic is in how it can adapt. It can completely transform into this gull-wing position, which fully integrates that split, that slant, and that tilt that we now know are so critical for comfort. This is where you see all those scientific principles coming together in one design.
And the details here are what really matter. It hits those perfect research-backed angles, a 12.5-degree slant to straighten out the wrists, that crucial negative 7.5-degree slope, and a really deep 25-degree tenting angle to get that perfect handshake position. It's designed to be a one-size-fits-all solution, but only because it's so incredibly adjustable.
And there's one final layer of customization: functionality. Macro keys are basically programmable shortcuts. You can make one key press do a whole series of commands. For anyone who does repetitive stuff, coders, designers, even gamers, this is an absolute game changer for efficiency.
So really, it all leaves us with this one simple question. We spend so much time and effort personalizing almost every other part of our lives: our coffee order, our music playlists, our entire workspace. Isn't it about time we gave that same level of care to the single most used tool we own? Your wrists will definitely thank you for it.